Are live with Breaking the Grade. And although Ashton has really great hair, and I'm not taking anything away from your hair, man. Your hair is neither's mine, is not as good as John Gamba's. And John Gamba is not blessing us with his hair today. He's got some work for the University of Pennsylvania to do. So while we will miss John, it's actually a really great time for Ashton Tate to step in, because we are talking about this idea from burnout to booked calls. And if there is anybody who has gone from not necessarily burned out to booked calls, it is my man Ashton. So Ashton, introduce yourself, please. Tell people who you are, where you are, what you do, and then we'll get to some tactical stuff.
Yeah, sweet. My name's Ashton Tate. I live just south of Nashville, Tennessee, in Franklin, Tennessee. And we own a health education company, and we work with schools all over the country to help them have excellent health and PE programs. So schools all over the U.S., few in other countries as well, and it's been awesome.
Great, man. When we think about your perfect client, and obviously, we know about what that means for a perfect client. What does yours look like?
Yeah, most of our schools are faith-based private schools. We do work with public education and charter schools and stuff too, but I'd say a lot of our schools are, faith-based private schools. Usually our ideal person is the curriculum director. Sometimes it's the principal who's over curriculum. Sometimes there's like a PE chair or wellness director, something like that if they have that specific title. But yeah, usually it's curriculum director or the principal at a school. So
yeah, when you came to me, or actually we met more or less over In-N-Out burgers and Mexican food north of the border in California. You were really focused on selling your faith-based curriculum to public schools. And obviously I know you have a curriculum that is less faith-based for public schools. And I said, Ashton, man, let's just stick to the faith-based groups. You've got your reputation, you've got this curriculum that is good. That's a tough conversation that I have with a lot of people. And I say, we need niche you down. So can you remember that conversation? What did it feel like to really put the stake in the ground and say, I'm going faith-based and we're going to reach out to these particular people?
Yeah, I mean, that kind of naturally was happening. I think we were getting a lot of traction there, and it was kind of just okay, when do we need to expand more and more? Again, we do have some public schools and charter schools that have just kind of been reaching out to us, but yeah, we most of our schools are faith-based private schools, and so it aligned really well with what they were doing. So we were kind of just considering like, okay, when should we expand and pursue more public schools, district, things like that? Because that opens up the market and there can be a lot larger deals there. But yeah, I think that the conversation just was, hey, let's try to get and extract as much and connect with as many from the faith-based sector before we expand, so that we can really be targeted with messaging and outreach and things like that, and it's worked pretty well. So
Ashton is being modest at this point. It's worked very well. Ashton ended up taking my advice and then joining one of our Ed Sales Elevation Experience cohorts, and Ashton and I work very closely week to week. He's a really good member of our Ed Sales Elevation Experience community, and also has demonstrated something we wrote here in our most recent blog, is that burnout doesn't come from grinding. It comes from doing the wrong things without getting results. And I think you're a perfect example of that, because you grind, man. You are a grinder. But when you're doing the wrong things, you ain't going to get the results just from grinding. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I like the grind. But it's nice to see the results. It's nice to have some predictability with what you're doing. And yeah, if you're saying the wrong things in your emails that you're sending out, or in your scripts, or in your outreach, or whatever, you're not going to get the responses. So yeah, banging your head against the wall is not fun.
No, not at all. We have been consistently showing up for these LinkedIn Lives every Thursday, and we're seeing more and more people. So if you're out there, feel free to put in the chat where you are, your LinkedIn URL, your business, questions for me, questions for Ashton. What ends up happening a lot, as I told Ashton, is that people then come to me one-to-one with questions, and I'm happy to answer those as well. But if you're interested in kind of putting your name out there in our chat, it's a really good community and people can help each other out. So we've got this idea of the slow burn methods. And the slow burn methods, some of them are posting regularly in places like LinkedIn, showing up at events, conferences, tweaking your SEO, sending emails. These are things that we hear people do that slowly burn them out and get them very frustrated. So let's just pick one of those, Ashton. Which one were you most focused on before you got that messaging right and started to kind of see the results recently that we'll talk about that you're seeing? Which one, what was your go-to? I'm going to get this right, and it never got right.
I mean, we did some email. I'd say it's probably, we do a lot of calls and follow up and everything with, with all of our outreach. And so I'd say probably email.
And what we know is that when people are trying things like email or going to conferences or messing with their SEO or messing with Facebook ads or posting on LinkedIn, is that you get no traction, you get no book calls, you got no clear next steps, which equals frustration. What was your level of frustration with this? And, what did you try to do to fix it?
Yeah, I think for us, I mean, we had been doing the outreach for so long, and we had started to get some good traction. I think we had decent messaging, but yeah, we were getting so many people reaching out, and it was how to handle all of the warm stuff that was coming in. How do we handle all the warm stuff? How do we follow up after we hop on a sales call? It's all those little things, and the messaging, on the sales call, and the messaging, in emails in particular when you're following up, that, if they're not on point, you get a bunch of leads, and then you're running yourself ragged, try to follow up with all of them, and nobody's responding. And it's just, and again, education's a tough market because people are so busy, so it's tough to get responses, period, no matter how good your copy is, because they're just swamped. But, I found, really having the right messaging, sending at the right times, things like that, it's been game changer for sure.
Yeah. Then you go from these idea of slow burn methods to hunting, and you are a hunter. When I started working with Ashton one-to-one, or this was on display minute one of meeting, and then also in the Ed Sales Elevation Experience with our cohort, and certainly in our one-to-one meetings, you're a systems guy. You love a good system. You love a good automation. That really gets you excited. And I'm sure there were times, and I'm glad you didn't, that you could reach through the computer and grab my neck when I was, saying, hey, let's think about the messaging this way, or can we work on your credibility that way? But then you're a hunter. And when you get to hunt with good messaging, you start to get results, better results. So yesterday, you and I had a chance, along with your brother, who's a member of when we meet, Avery, we were looking at some of your more recent campaigns. You don't have to give us precise numbers, but can you talk about ballpark where you went from before the messaging to now revenue, obviously, what percentages of I like that stat we were talking about yesterday, which was opportunities, and explain like the stat of opportunities and how you've tracked that.
Yeah. Well, last year we had used some interns from like local colleges to and set them up with systems as far as like calling the schools that we have data on and connecting with them, sharing about the program with them, and following up via email and all this stuff. And it was okay. It was just a lot of time and a lot of managing people that are only going to be with you for a couple of months and then they leave, and then what do you do? So this year we decided not to do that, and we used what Josh had recommended for so we look up all the lists for faith-based schools in a particular state, and we go to the website and find the person that we should reach out to, right? So we get that person's contact information, email, all that type of stuff, put them in the list, and then we're able to. Some of the times we send out handwritten letters to them. We have an automated thing that does that for us, that writes with the real pen. So we send out handwritten letters, and then what I've seen work really well is automating those handwritten letters to be sent out, and then the follow up in email is the messaging that Josh and I went over, but it's following up on that handwritten letter and sending them those review materials again too. And so I think we've sent out, I think it's like 9,000 emails over the past couple months. And then again, we're building processes, like Josh said, I like systems. So we're building processes around constantly having new leads that our VAs are finding, putting them into the system, sending the handwritten letters, putting them into and sending the automated handwritten letters or the automated emails out to them and stuff like that for each state. So it's been working good. I think we sent out like 9,000 emails. I think we have 90 something opportunities. And so that's either someone who replied to the cold email and asked for review materials, said that they were interested, booked a call, whatever. That's number one. Number two, sometimes they'll pass that letter or that email along to the proper decision maker or their PE teacher or curriculum director or whatever. And that person will go on our website, request preview materials, and we'll get the opportunity that way. And so, we've had about 91 of those to where it's, legitimate, warm people that are interested in the curriculum. And a lot of them will hop on sales calls where we'll be able to learn more about what their needs are and kind of walk them through our product. So yeah, it's been going pretty well.
And that idea of opportunities is, we're running a pretty sophisticated email program. So I don't necessarily recommend people, do this at home, but happy to kind of walk people through how we are doing it. But that number of opportunities is based on people who have potentially, correct me if I'm wrong here, come from a list. They have been emailed. They may not have replied to that email, but you have been able to tie them to an opportunity that they got in touch with you one way or another. Is that an accurate description?
Yeah, I mean, most of our schools, the back part of their email, like the URL is the same. So, they could be Tate at whatever their URL is. So usually, like when someone reaches out to get the preview, we'll just double check, hey, is there anybody that we've connected with in our software that it has that same email? And sometimes it's a different person at the school that reaches out and says that, hey, Janie had passed this along to me to review or whatever. But yeah, confirmed opportunities from instantly what we use. So
right. The most important part of that is that you're tracking it. Right. When I was in the tutoring space, it was really hard to track families. You and I aren't selling a pair of Adidas shoes where you go get your shoes, you put them in the cart, and then you check out. In the tutoring space, it's, dad reaches out because he's fed up, goes to tell the kid they're getting tutoring. Kid says, no, give me a couple more weeks. Couple more weeks go by. Mom says, I'm fed up, different last names. And it's really tough to track. And they just want help, and they don't really care about my tracking. So the fact that you are putting in that work to track is really good, because then you can see where people are coming from. Obviously, we're also really working on messaging. And therefore, in your messaging, what we have been clear on is your offer, is the transformation that occurs. And messaging is a part of hunting, value-driven messaging. And so we've worked on that. So when people get your email, it's clear, it's concise, and they know how you're different, biblically based, and we can give you these results. And so when you put all that together, you get these, yes, good open rates, even better reply rates, and then this awesome opportunity stat, which is even better because it takes the reply rates to a new level. Because somebody might not reply, but the person you reached out to may say, this stuff is great, it ain't on my plate. Send it over to the right person who says, I'm going to reach out, and they reach out in a different way. And that is the education space in a nutshell when it comes to selling, for better or for worse. Also, to recap, let's talk about these handwritten letters. Aside from the fact that, you and I have a few different inches between the top of your head and the top of my head, we're very much the same in the way we reach out to people, in the way we want to be personable, helpful. I also sent handwritten letters back in the day, 2010, 2011, 2012, to PTA presidents. They were very hard to read because I have the worst handwriting in the world. My wife says it looks like little ants fighting each other. But you have a hack. So talk about your handwritten hack that you use. Feel free to give these people a plug if you like them. And talk about what we're starting to see the stats on with the handwritten letters, because you and I didn't know if that was worthwhile.
Yeah. So one of the things that I love, I used to own a gym and do personal training and all that stuff. And it was fine. It went good. People got great results, but there's no, you can help everybody, and there's no data on who needs my product. You can't go pull a list. It's random. And so one of the things that was really helpful as we were getting started is you can go find the person on their website. Everybody who works at most schools have their faculty page, and you can go and find it. And if you don't, just ask the person at the front desk, hey, who handles your curriculum? And so we kept it real simple at first, but just finding the right person at the school. And we would get the data, the first, last name, their email, the address, their title, the school URL, all that stuff, so that we could put it into our systems. And then we use so what I loved about that is man, if they're getting so many emails, they're getting so many people are reaching out, they have so much stuff on their plate, but when's the last time they got a real handwritten letter? That doesn't ever happen. It's usually a bill or it's some spam stuff, but I was like, man, my handwriting is the worst ever. It's horrible.
Does
And
your
I
wife
hate,
let you know that too?
oh, many times. She's got her calligraphy that she's doing. Her handwriting is beautiful. Mine is horrible.
Yeah.
So
Right. Yeah.
she makes fun of me for it, and that's fine. But yeah, I was like, man, I would love to be able to do that, of being able to get the biggest thing is making it not feel like cold calling for me. When I first started, we would call schools, and we wanted a way to make it feel really warm and genuine. Because I think in today's day and age, genuine helps you stand out. Different helps you stand out when they're getting 5,000 emails. And so for us, it was like, man, how can we stand out? How can we be genuine? And so, yeah, we I looked up, and I saw an ad one day for a automated handwritten letter written with the real pen, and you upload your list, and they'll send it out, those handwritten letters out. And so I shopped a bunch of different companies, kind of got burned by one, honestly, that didn't work very well. The one we use now is called Letter Labs, and it's like LTTR, Letter Labs. And they're awesome. We have automations from our CRM HubSpot that go and will send out and trigger letters, like one-off letters, like during our systems and like onboarding processes and all that stuff. So we have that. But a lot of times, yeah, we'll get the data, we'll send that letter out, and it's written with a real pen. Like they have the people that write the letter with the real pen, and it's a white envelope that they open, and it's hand addressed, handwritten on the outside with their name, the address. Like it doesn't look like a spammy, flyer thing. So we send those out, and yeah, those have been really helpful. I mean, we get people and leads just from the letters, just when they get them. But one of the main things I I could not get one lead from the letters, and I'm fine with that because it gives me a reason to follow up, right?
Mhm.
It gives you a reason of, now the follow up is, hey, I sent you a handwritten letter. Did you get it? I sent you over materials and a gift in the mail. Did you get it? Versus, hey, I'm cold calling you with, this. And, again, like we still do some of that, and we have a really genuine script that works, but it's like, man, being able to follow up on a specific event for what you sent them, and if they didn't get the letter, then you can give them a pitch on how you can help them. If they did get the letter, they're like, "Oh yeah, I got that, and it's so cool, and I'm looking into it." And so they've worked. I've been really happy with them so far. So
Cool. Plug for some people we don't know who are helping you out. So I'm happy for that. Some of the
mhm,
things to hit on here is you have an automation, fantastic. You are in the mindset, which hopefully is partially the result, at least a little bit of the work we've been doing. The Ed Sales Elevation experience here is that, it's not about sending the letter. It's not about sending that email. It's about providing value and one way or another getting somebody's attention and trying in multiple ways, because it's not just one email. It's not just one letter. Um, and I love the fact that you want to be genuine, because that's what I want. People come and I'll talk to them about the Ed Sales Elevation experience, and they're like, well, I don't want to be salesy or pushy. And I'm like, good, because it doesn't work. So I certainly don't want that for you. And I want results for you. And I'll add, so my wife and I have this long running list. It gets longer, like every day it feels like, of jobs I could not do. For example, coal miner. I would never be a good coal miner. This writing letters, because my handwriting is so crappy, I'll add that to the list as well. You know, but I love the fact that there's somebody, I say with my wife's handwriting, it looks like it's she has like her own font, you
mhm,
know. But it makes a lot of sense probably that your wife is probably like my wife, very, very structured, very organized. That's the yin and the yang of relationships here. And we are kind of we're the entrepreneurs, we're the risk takers, and you are as well. But you don't have to take risks all the time when it comes to lead generation. And that's when this idea of hunting comes in. Hunting, when you're doing it right, you are targeting the right people. You know exactly who you're reaching out to. You are doing that. Faith-based curriculum, faith-based schools, value-driven messaging. Every conversation starts with how you can help, not what you're selling. We have worked on that. And you, like many of the other people I work with, we have to kind of change the mindset on that. Clear, irresistible offers. It's very clear what your faith-based curriculum does for them versus any other curriculum. And then it comes down to consistent daily action. And that for you is also not a challenge. You're a gym guy, so you get the idea of results. Talk about, for you, what you're doing on a consistent daily basis to generate leads on repeat. And this is Ashton's results, but I want people to understand kind of like what you're up to versus me. We all kind of doing our own thing. What are you up to consistently and daily?
Yeah, I mean, right now it's kind of our busy season, so I'm just kind of swamped with tasks of schools that are reaching out and follow up and all that stuff. It was just great problem following up with those 91 opportunities or whatever it is. And I'd say when I first started, I kept it really simple. I didn't make it fancy. I didn't do the letters at first because I wanted to get my messaging down and wanted to figure out. And so it didn't cost me anything to do outreach at first. All I did was pull up the schools that I wanted to contact. You can go to niche.com, and it's a school uh, website where it's like the best schools in your area. And I think usually like families use it to find schools that they want to go to in their area. You can pull up and you can search, you know, it can be public school, charter, Christian, Catholic, like all the different types of schools. And you can search by state or by city or whatever, and you can pull up that list, and they're all the websites are linked. And so all I would do is pull up, go to the website, find the right person, create a task in our system, or even before we had a CRM and stuff, I would just make a list, and I would just I'd call an email and follow up, and you reverse engineer numbers, right? Hey, if I call this many people, how many people do I typically see respond or answer? If that many people respond or answer, how many of those people are actually going to hop on meetings with me or be interested? If those many people hop on meetings with me or are interested via email, how many of those people are closing? And then you can just reverse engineer and say, hey, if I want to close this many schools, here's how many calls I have to hop on. Here's how many people I need to call. And I would just have super simple numbers break down and tweak them based on the results I was seeing, and just call and email people, like just super consistent, follow up, be present, kind of break through their busyness, and just let them know you're here to serve them. And that's kind of still what we do. It's a lot of it's a little bit more inbound and a little bit more automated now, but it doesn't cost any money. It doesn't cost money to pick up the phone, And I think a lot of times it's easy to sit behind a laptop and shoot emails over, or it's easy to kind of create your thing, but pick up the phone and just call people, talk to people, ask them questions, and see how you can be of service. I think it's just the consistency and the just being, tenacious enough to follow up, So that's kind of how some of I started. And I still do a lot of that stuff now. It's just a little bit more inbound with all the leads we're getting with our systems that we've built. But yeah.
A great problem to have is that Ashton talks to me about his long list. I think it was last time we talked, it was like 106 tasks that he has to do, all of them kind of lead gen-ish, as a result of this tenacity that he talks about. The other part that we should highlight is that you talked about, yes, cold calling, literally cold calling, but asking questions and listening and not talking about what you do or how you do it, but just listening. Because when you go and you listen to people, you can then take what their needs are and wrap it around how you can help them. And that's really important stuff. So that's the journey of Ashton in terms of, his daily exercise, so to speak, when it comes to lead gen and what it has resulted in. And now he's playing at a whole different level. He put in that consistency and that tenacity. So some places to start. Get clear on who you help. Perfect. Book time for daily intentional outreach. I have 30 minutes a day in my calendar that I work on this. You did it as well. Focus on relationships first conversations. We're not pitching. We're starting real conversations. We're asking smart questions. Now, here's the fun part, guys. So Ashton didn't know that he was coming on this show. And frankly, I didn't know he was coming on the show until yesterday. So we didn't have much time to plan, but we spend an hour and a half a week together anyway. So no worries there. My last point for where people need to get started is own your corner of LinkedIn and your niche. And Ashton is not a guy that I would push around in public, person to person, or even as my client. But I've been trying to get this guy to work on LinkedIn for a very long time. And we're finally getting there. Your buyers are on LinkedIn. Your competitors are sleeping on LinkedIn. When you show up with value on LinkedIn, and when you are consistent, and when you provide a credible voice on LinkedIn, people are going to hear it. Hunting is not about being pushy. It's about being present, intentional, and clear. And LinkedIn is a place to do it. So Ash and I are going to begin working very hard on what he can do on LinkedIn. But all of these results that he's getting are without being very consistent on LinkedIn. But thank you, Ashton, for commenting on my post yesterday about going to Chicago. Clearly, I've heard you. I'm going to be in Chicago next week, guys, at the University of Chicago on Wednesday, speaking, and then Thursday hosting an event with the EdTech Institute of Chicago Thursday night. You can find that information on my LinkedIn, just like Ashton did. So, Ashton, although we have not gotten you the results on LinkedIn, what was kind of what was the tipping point for you to begin to want to explore the value of LinkedIn when it comes to outreach?
I mean, I think it's just another modality of follow-up, being able to connect with people, message them, like their posts, them see your posts, in addition to the emails and all that stuff. I mean, it's another way for them to see you, I think is a lot of what we're kind of starting with. Being able to have more touch points, more connections, in a natural and genuine way, I think is kind of the main thing that we're going for. Especially when somebody reaches out, on our website, it's being able to have LinkedIn and connecting with them there as a part of that follow-up process. I think that's going to be a game changer. So
yeah, this is something that we talked about yesterday, Ashton, his brother, and I, in the sense of he gets a lot of inbound traffic from his website. And if somebody reaches out, while I'm sure you're like me, you're going to respond as fast as humanly possible to somebody. If you also connect with them on LinkedIn, if you also comment on something they have written to show that you're really, researching them and are aligned with them on something they posted, if you are consistently posting and you've just connected with this person and they're hot to trot, because, when people connect with you, they're really probably the hottest time to buy. And if they start to see you, because the algorithm is going to test out, the algorithm will test for Ashton to see if this person is interested in what he's posting. And if they're looking at it, they're going to get more and more of Ashton. And that actually is moving him yards down the field towards a close, doing it in just the way he wants to do it, which is in a genuine way, delivering value to them. And then, of course, embedded in what Ashton was saying is there's automations coming, which you'll have such a great time with. But I think you have begun to see kind of why we play this game as well. And that's good. So talk to me and our audience about where you are from mindset standpoint, given that it's post spring break. We're in May 1, today's May. So essentially we have 60 give or take days until July 1st. And so where's your mindset on lead gen to make sure you are in the best position for you and your team for the fall of 2025?
Yeah, I mean, realistically, we have another 4 months where schools will close. May, June, July, and then August. Our schools can close a little later in August because some of them don't start back until like the first week of September sometimes. So we get some trickle schools coming in there too. But yeah, I mean, we're kind of full on harvest mode right now. Just we've planted the seeds all throughout the spring. We do a lot of our outreach. I mean, we're constantly connecting with schools and doing outreach, and I speak at 4 or 5 conferences each year and stuff like that. And so we're constantly getting leads and nurturing and following up with people and stuff like that. But we really start doing a lot of our pushing, um, rolling stuff out. I'd say probably early February. And so we really started pushing in February, and then now it's kind of all those seeds have been planted, following up, getting those leads, and then being able to harvest on those seeds that we planted throughout the rest of the year. So May will be a decently big month. June will be pretty big. July is usually our biggest
Mhm.
month, just because a lot of their budgets open July 1 for education. So that's probably our biggest month, and then August is usually pretty big too on that end. So yeah, it's really harvesting, and then we're going to keep up, sending out all of our letters. We have our assistant, going through finding new leads, putting them in those automated systems to be able to get more and more leads throughout the summer. So we've planted, just harvesting and continuing to send stuff out is kind of my mindset. So get
That's
it,
great.
gotta get it.
Thank you for really leaning into that, to the hunting metaphor there with the harvesting and the planting. I appreciate that. I want to point out a few things. Again, Ashton's business is very focused on faith-based schools. Clearly, that's not necessarily the public schools there at this point. So, interestingly enough, as to reiterate what Ashton said, the budgets close in July. So while they are committed, at least over email, to his curriculum, the money comes in July, and the contracts are signed in July. From a public school standpoint, which is where I cut my teeth, you know, we're looking at a smaller window, because when those public schools go away at the end of June, you better be ready. You better have signed your contract, and your team is going to go away for July and part of August to get ready. That being said, when the schools open back up and they didn't pull the trigger on somebody like you, or the trigger they did pull is not working out, then that sales season can start back up again in late fall and maybe get you ready for winter 2026. One thing that Ashton kind of dropped there, which is something we haven't necessarily talked about, but is really coming up in a show that we'll release 1 week from tomorrow: speaking opportunities. Speaking opportunities definitely fit into hunting, because when you go out there and speak to the right people in front of the right audience with a clear message and your credibility is built out, you're going to start bringing people in that way as well. So we'll talk more about that. So, Ashton, I appreciate you, kind of coming in at the last minute here and filling in for the great John Gamba. I think we had a different conversation than we could have with John, because you're out there really doing this hunting day in and day out. Granted, you're doing it at a pretty sophisticated level now, because you can, because your perfect client, because your messaging is really great. You did your listening, your offer is clear, and you test messaging. I left out that credibility part. I know you got your credibility, but we're gonna turn that thing up over the next couple of weeks. So again, thank you for joining. I wanted to walk people through what it means to hunt and what it means to see success when you get away from these slow burn methods. Is there anything that you could tell our audience, about what they should be doing, and B, make sure you give people the URL for Forum Curriculum, please?
Yeah. Our website's formeducation.org. So FORM education.org. You can check out what we're doing, check out our website. And then, I just imperfect action, right? I think I failed at some early on business stuff where I wanted to do some corporate wellness and all this other stuff. And I failed because I never got anything out there. I was trying to make the perfect pitch deck and the perfect slides and the perfect program and product. And it's like, get it out there, have conversations, see what people need. You just figure it out. And so I think a lot of times getting something off the ground you just got to do it. You just got to make the calls. You got to send the emails. Again, have your messaging right so you're not doing the wrong things, but you got to get out there and learn from it and see, hey, why aren't people responding, or why aren't people calling me back, or hey, what do I need to say here? And you just figure it out and you learn. But I'd say biggest thing for us getting a lot of stuff off the ground was just picking up the phone, calling, being consistent. Like, you just got to do it. So
Yeah. I've never heard you say this idea of imperfect action, but I agree with it. And I would follow up with, it's imperfect action following up with perfecting the action. And that's what we've kind of been talking about here. You gotta get out and do these things, but then when you do them and you listen and you learn, you can get to a place where you are today with your lead gen sitting on, 91 opportunities, and then you come crying to me about your tasks, and I'm telling you that there's a lot of people out there who are listening who would love those tasks. And you remember Ashton of a couple years ago. So congratulations to you for putting in that work and getting to where you are today. And you're going to be successful because you're genuine and you're good at what you do. Your curriculum, running a business, treating the people right on your team. I see that. So we'll catch back up with you and see where you are July. But for now, keep it up. And I appreciate everybody who joined. Next week, I will be in Chicago doing this. I believe they have really good internet in Chicago as well, so we'll be fine there. If you are in the Chicago area or can make it, University of Chicago, I'll be speaking there around 2:00 on a panel on Wednesday, and then the following day around 5 or 5:30. You can see I'm really good with schedules here, but it's all on my LinkedIn. I'll be hosting a masterclass, partnering up with the EdTech Institute of Chicago and hosting a masterclass for them. So feel free to join any of those events. Ashton, thank you for joining us. Everybody else, if you've been listening, you now know what you got to do. Imperfect action followed by perfect that action. Thank you, guys.